Good morning. Today is Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. It's 8:35 a.m. And this is a meeting in Senate Natural Resources and Energy. We're taking up Bill S-254, an act relating to including rechargeable batteries and battery-containing products under the State Battery Stewardship Program. The bill is on our website for anyone who's following. And we already did a walkthrough with council earlier in the session. Now we're taking up the bill with the goal of passing it prior to crossover. First on our witness list is George Kirkner. Good morning, Mr. Kirkner. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
All right. Thanks very much. Let me get the light on here. So I'm George Kirchner. I am the executive director of a battery trade association known as PRBA. We were established back in 1991 for this very reason, for workable, portable, rechargeable battery collection programs. We fully support Senate Bill 254. It generally aligns with the principles that our members support in terms of battery EPR. In fact, it's one of the reasons why PRBA, like I said, was formed in '91 to establish these types of programs, not just in Vermont, but in other states as well. So right now in the United States and Canada, there's a program called the Call to Recycle program. And I know Karen Stewart from Call to Recycle will testify a little bit later, but one of the things that grew out of PRBA in the early 90s was to establish a rechargeable battery collection program. And again, a lot of our members are supporters of the Call to Recycle program and have their batteries collected through that program. Our members, just a little bit of background on PRBA, while we are the Rechargeable Battery Association, we have leading manufacturers of non-rechargeable batteries as well. So we have a vested interest in both chemistries. Our members also are leading manufacturers of power tools, outdoor power equipment, cell phone, notebooks, tablets, medical devices, battery recyclers, and retailers. So our association, while it's a battery association, it's a very diverse association, and all of them have a vested interest in this issue. And again, one of the major reasons why we were very pleased to see Senate Bill 254 introduced, because of the work that we've done over the years and because it generally aligns with the interest of our members. I think it's important for this committee to recognize what's happening in the United States right now with battery collection and recycling at the state level. Over the last 4 years, PRBA was very active working with legislators and NGOs in Washington, D.C., California, and Washington State. We were successful in getting legislation passed in those 3 jurisdictions. And those laws that are now in effect and on the books in those states generally align with what's in Senate Bill 254. In addition, this year, we've got Connecticut, New York, Illinois, New Jersey, and Minnesota working on very similar bills. So there's this wave of battery EPR legislation for portable batteries, it's mostly portable batteries, although New Jersey was the first state to pass EV and HEV battery collection and recycling legislation earlier this year. So there's just a lot going on in this space. And I think the timing for Vermont to take on this issue is just perfect. And again, we worked with Jen Holiday and over the last 3 or 4 or 5 months to draft this bill to generally capture what are those rechargeable batteries that are in the marketplace today, mostly consumer facing. But it's not just a consumer battery collection recycling bill. So it's going to capture all portable batteries. So the list of reasons why we generally support the bill, in addition to what I talked about earlier, your current law in the books for primary batteries was passed in 2014. It's old. It needs to be updated. It needs to capture these rechargeable batteries. And there are a number of loopholes in your primary battery EPR law that I think needs to be closed. And the way this bill is drafted, it closes those loopholes. Collecting all portable batteries and not just primary batteries also makes it easier for consumers to dispose of their batteries. The material recovery facilities today, we know, are having problems with fires and lithium batteries. And this program will help to address that issue. And I think that's one of the key things for this committee to recognize. In addition, there are larger lithium-ion batteries entering the marketplace today that are in the marketplace for e-bikes, scooters, outdoor power equipment, your lawnmowers, your leaf blowers. Those larger batteries are going to be captured in this program as well. So again, we've seen the lithium-ion battery industry expand greatly since, I would say, over the last 5 to 8 years. And there's just more of those batteries on the market, and this program will address that issue in terms of collection. And lastly, as I mentioned before, the way the bill is written, it generally aligns with what's in Washington, D.C., California, and Washington, and what has been proposed in those 4 or 5 other states that I mentioned before. So having that general harmonization between the states in terms of the program that's being operated, the batteries are being covered, makes it much easier for our members and the industry generally to comply with the program, and also for the battery stewardship organizations to operate their battery collection programs. So I'll leave it at that. Again, we're very supportive of the approach here, and I'll stop here and be glad to answer any questions now or whenever everybody finishes their testimony. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We talk about solid waste probably, if not every year, every other year, and modify the flows, trying to handle changing markets and all the rest. And I realize often we're trying to make sure that people handling these and recycling facilities and all the rest are easy to use. That people can dispose of batteries easily enough. I realize I don't know what happens to rechargeable batteries or batteries period after. Are they broken down and turned? This like when we talk about recycled glass, paper, aluminum, plastic, it can be turned back into new batteries, or what happens with them?
Yeah, that's it's a question we get a lot, and I can speak to that issue. And I think my colleague Mark Bullish, who spent 25 years at a primary battery manufacturer, and Karen Stewart with Called Recycle can expand on this as well. But as far as the rechargeable batteries, nickel metal hydride, nickel cadmium, lithium ion, a lot of those have critical minerals, and they have nickel, cobalt, and other critical minerals. Those are extracted from the batteries and used for either other products, or they are put back into rechargeable batteries. So there's a very robust recycling program here in the United States and North America generally to extract those metals, those critical minerals, which we want to keep here in the United States. And that's how those metals are used. On the primary side, speaking to alkaline and carbon zinc batteries, they don't necessarily have those critical minerals that you see in rechargeables. Nonetheless, those batteries are recycled. The steel and those batteries are used for other products as well. So in the bill, there is a recycling efficiency rate provision that mandates a certain percent, anywhere from 60 to 75% of the materials need to be recycled. So it's a very high recycling efficiency rate. And again, that industry, the battery recycling industry, particularly for lithium ion, nickel cadmium, nickel metal hydride, the Biden administration has been providing funding, grant money for establishing new recycling facilities here in the US. So that's all part of the federal program to expand that battery recycling footprint.
Okay. And one other quick question is, I was talking to Ms. Holliday before we got underway this morning about larger batteries, like, I'm familiar with, in electric vehicles, plus in like Tesla Powerwalls, for instance.
Right.
Is that part of, is your battery association already dealing with those, or that's part of programming under different?
Our association does deal with those batteries. Our members do manufacture hybrid electric vehicle and EV batteries. So, the major automotive companies like Ford and GM and Toyota, they're all members of our association. So we're actively involved in that space as well. This bill and other bills recognize that type of program for large batteries like Powerwalls, energy storage systems, EV and HEV batteries. That's just a completely different battery collection program that needs to be operated for that. It's not going to be like this EPR model that we're talking about today, but the industry that's involved with that, the battery manufacturers, the recyclers, That's the next wave. California, New Jersey, Washington, they're all gearing up to pass very similar legislation, and I would suspect that's coming to Vermont as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Senator Watts.
Thank you. A couple questions. In the list of critical minerals that can be recycled, I'm not sure if I heard lithium in there. My understanding is that lithium is hard to recycle, but I'm speculating about that. It's just things I've heard.
No, lithium, the metal lithium itself is not extracted from lithium-ion batteries. It's the lithium cathode materials that's then recycled and used and made into other lithium batteries. So that is, I'm not going to say that's the holy grail, but that's where the technology is moving. And I think Karen Stewart could probably speak to that a little bit better than I can. But again, extracting lithium metal really isn't what happens with lithium ion. It's more for the cathode materials to make new lithium batteries. And again, that's all part of the program, and keeping those materials in the United States, North America generally, I think is really the key for getting these types of bills passed, so we are not importing critical minerals and other things from other parts of the world.
Okay, and then the other question I have is, you mentioned that this bill closes some loopholes. Could you I apologize, I came in just like a couple minutes late, so.
No worries.
But could you just like clarify what the loopholes are that this is closing?
Absolutely. So I think the most important one is that the current primary battery law does not capture batteries that are packed with equipment, for example. Right now, it's just capturing what I'll call standalone or loose batteries. So when you go to a store and you buy a flashlight with a couple C or D cell alkaline batteries, those batteries are not captured in your current primary battery program. And that to me is an enormous loophole. And I think that needs to be closed, because there's a large number of those batteries that enter the market with equipment or packed with equipment. And we want to make sure those producers are paying their fair share of the battery collection program.
Okay, and that's helpful and super interesting, because I wonder, so what this would do is, like, if somebody has a product with a packed in or not loose rechargeable battery, in order to take that back, I imagine you have, I mean, I'm sure this will all get worked out, but like, do you envision that somebody would have to bring in like the entire product, or are they gonna have to like figure out how to like pry the battery out, like find those little screws and, or whatever it is, right? Like, or maybe it just depends. And so I'm curious for your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's another good question. So it's important to distinguish, and the bill does this and does a very good job with this. It distinguishes between standalone batteries that are easily removable or packed with equipment, and then batteries that are embedded in equipment. This bill does not cover those batteries that are embedded in equipment that are not easily removable. So if you need a special tool to remove the battery from your cell phone or notebook or tablet, that is not part of the program. There is a provision in the bill that it's a study provision that looks at how do we capture those those product with embedded batteries, and all the other states are doing the same thing. They recognize that's a problem for the MRFs as well, and the MRF operators we've talked to said it's not just the loose batteries that are causing some challenges for us, it's those batteries that are embedded in products. And we've seen Minnesota, California, Washington addressing that issue and trying to figure out how to establish a program to collect those battery embedded products. But a battery collection program does not have the bandwidth nor the resources to collect battery embedded products at this point. But that's something the industry recognizes coming.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful.
You bet.
Senator McCormick.
Thanks. Where, at the end of the day, where does everything go?
Everything stays within, well, I'm most familiar with the Call to Recycle program in terms of how they collect their batteries. And I know Ms. Stewart with Call to Recycle can speak to this a little bit better than I. All those batteries, they get recycled here in the United States. Nothing gets exported. So we have processors here in the United States and in Canada that will take those materials, process them, recycle them. And again, those materials are reused in other products, including batteries.
Well, that's what I'm asking, like, what other how are the materials used?
So again, getting back to the critical minerals, extracting the nickel and the cobalt, et cetera, they can be used in other batteries, for example, whether it's portable batteries, HEV, EV batteries, and so forth. It's really not that much different than your lead acid battery recycling today. 99% of the lead and lead acid batteries is recovered and recycled and used in new batteries. The goal, obviously, with lithium ion is to, get something like that to make sure we're using all those materials and those lithium ion batteries to, reduce the need to mine those products as well. So again, on the rechargeable side, the critical minerals and some of the other materials in the battery, very valuable. There's a little bit of profit there right now, but we expect to see more as it goes down the road. On the primary side, when you're talking about non-rechargeable lithium metal, alkaline, carbon, zinc, there's really not a lot of value in those batteries at the end of life. So there's a cost, but nonetheless, there are materials that are extracted from those batteries. The steel that's used in the can is reused in other products as well.
And you did touch on the question. Is there an adequate market for all the materials?
That's a very good question, and I'm not sure I know the answer to that question right now. And I'm going to defer to either my colleague Mark Bullish or Karen Stewart about the market that's available for the recycle. But I can certainly follow up with you on that one.
Thanks. And did I interrupt you? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I said I did not mean to interrupt. I apologize. I
that's
think
okay.
I'm quite done when I started speaking.
Okay.
Okay, the other question, you mentioned electric bikes. What about cars? Those are the bigger batteries.
Right.
EV.
So the electric vehicles and hybrid electric vehicle batteries, that is a program that the automobile manufacturers, battery recyclers, and so forth are working to develop a program to collect those batteries, either through a voluntary program or through mandatory legislation like this. Now, the thing about hybrid electric vehicles and electric vehicles, which is very important for this group to recognize when that legislation does become for you, those batteries, once they reach the end of life, can be reused or repurposed into other applications. Stationary storage batteries, for example, is very common to take an electric vehicle battery. Once it reaches the end of life in the car, it's got plenty of life in it, and it can be used in another application. So it's a very mature program here in the United States and around the world, and we're seeing that. Another reason to try to keep all those batteries here in the U.S. for what we call repurposing in other applications.
But that's another discussion from this morning discussion. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Bullish, you popped up on the screen. Do you have something you want to offer?
Yeah, I can certainly add, based on George's comment, when you start talking about the materials that are recovered from batteries, they're commodities in a lot of ways. So, the availability and the cost and, where they're used depends on the markets in a lot of ways. So it goes up and down, but generally speaking, there are final uses for all the products that are recovered from those batteries, whether it be into new batteries or into other applications like stainless steel or even fertilizer in some cases. So there's a lot of different applications, but yeah, there is definitely a final use for that. But again, the cost of it varies depending on the market conditions.
Thank you. Senator McDonald.
You spoke earlier about the bill we passed in 2014, which collected batteries. And then today you've told us that there's a huge loophole in that bill that was passed about a decade or so ago. Where have the batteries that are in the loophole, where have they been going for the last decade?
They've been collected, absolutely. And the battery manufacturers that are part of the program now, they're picking up the cost for those batteries. So It's not like they're not being collected. All the batteries that are packed with equipment today, the primary batteries, they're all being put in the boxes. They're all being collected, all the other standalone batteries. It's just that the standalone battery manufacturers are footing the bill for those other batteries that enter the market packed with equipment. So there's what I don't want to call, they're technically free riders in the program today. That's the reason why we think it's important to close that loophole, which would be 100% consistent with Washington, D.C., California, Washington, and the other bills in the other 5 states we're working on right now.
So if they were not turned in pursuant to that decade-old program, where would we find them? The ones that were not turned in today?
They would be in your landfill.
Well, thank you for at least for coming in and telling us that what we thought was being recycled that were collected, some of it's in the landfill. We've had other experiences with stuff that we believed was being recycled, only to find out that it was in the landfill without our being notified.
Well, and again, recognize that when those batteries are collected at your retail stores in Vermont, the consumers are dropping those in those boxes, and they're not distinguishing between the free riders and the ones that are paying the bill. So it's all going into the same box, and it's unlikely those free riders are ending up, just because they're free riders, are not paying into the program. It's very unlikely they're more likely to end up in a landfill. It's just consumers don't distinguish between, a free rider and loose batteries. But nonetheless, I think it's just very important that all of the producers, as we define in the bill, are part of the program, whether it's packed with equipment or whether it's standalone, and that's the premise of a whole EPR program.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kirchner, to get us rolling on this topic. With that, I'd like to go to the agency, and we have both Mr. Chapman and Ms. Gendron with us. I don't know if you want to pull up 2 chairs or go in onesie. Okay, onesie is the answer.
I'm, for the record, my name is Maggie Gendron. I'm Deputy Secretary of the Agency of Natural Resources, and I'm joined today with my colleague, Matt Chapman, who is the Division Director of Waste Management. I am here today not to support or oppose this particular piece of legislation, but I'm here today because on February 20th, S311 was referred to your committee, which is the Big Home Act, which is piece of legislation S311. It came from Senate Economic Development. That is the Big Home Bill. It's the bill that faces the housing policy that we're in now. What I'm here today to say is that it's frustrating that both the Fish and Wildlife Board conversation and this particular battery conversation is taking time in the committee before crossover, and we are losing time. And we are here today to provide you technical expertise that you need from Matt, but hoping that you give time and attention to S311 that both Fish and Wildlife Board and this particular bill are getting over the next 2 weeks. So.
Sure. The administration runs the administration. We run the legislature. We sequence the bills. We do our own air traffic control. We're always interested in your feedback. But as you know, or maybe you don't, maybe the administration's not aware that since November, the plan has been that a House bill would arrive in the Senate, and there would be a merger of House and Senate work on housing, and it would then go back to the House for the ordinary work.
Yeah.
So in case anyone else is mystified that although we've been pretty clear about it for weeks, Sarah,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess I'm confused. Are you not aware of the House bills that are coming over as well? Because
So what still are you talking about?
so right now, for my energy, natural, they're working on some Act 250 language, so why would we preempt that?
See, the housing bill is a modernization bill. S311 is a housing bill.
Yeah, so I think we kind of want to look at them all together rather than have. I see, it feels like,
Understood.
yeah, so is the point that you're worried we're not gonna pass something on housing?
So the housing bill is still in the housing, it's still in housing, energy and environment, it's gonna be there through the end of this week. I don't know if it will pass and get over here, I guess what I'm trying to express is a sense of consequence if the housing bill does not make it over here before crossover, and then we still have S 311 on the wall.
But we have we have an H housing bill over here that's already made crossover. And then we have more bills coming, so why would we preempt that? I guess I don't.
Yeah.
But isn't the request, but your request is that we change our plan, is that your?
No, just that S 311 is on your wall and it's an important piece of legislation that,
Yeah, I guess I agree.
It's gonna take care of itself.
Yeah.
There are bills that are exempted from crossover with their important bills.
But it's all, yeah.
Good question.
Thank you. Yes, it is an important bill. We will be taking it up and I'm excited to do so.
great, thank you.
I think, you know, just by way of reassurance to you, to the administration and others who might be interested in following. I think the effective date of the bill will be unaffected by whether we're working on it this week, next week, or which verse merged with what report lays on what bill.
And I would just ask, because of the provisions in the bill, it gets as much time and attention as these other bills have gotten over the last couple of weeks.
Right.
Awesome.
Right, but maybe people who are monitoring, we had a joint session with economic development and Senate economic development.
Understood.
We have 308, which is a complementary language, so I think there's a lot of Act 250 in economic development bill.
Yeah.
So we are, we're coming in, we're doing more than, we're walking, we're chewing gum, we're whistling, and we're wearing a hat. So-
Yeah, it doesn't seem to make sense to do them piecemeal, I guess is my.
So I think this is a larger conversation. I'm happy to have with you offline and not take up time from this particular rechargeable battery disposal, but it's an important conversation to be having. And so it was not fair of our division director to deliver that message, so that's why I'm here today, but he is here to provide technical commentary on the bill in front of you today.
Right.
So.
Everyone had their job, thank you very much.
I've never had that committee, that's interesting.
Well, it's good to know that we're all paying attention to what we're all doing, so. All right, Mr. Chapman.
All right, as to before,
Can you may be gonna get into it, but the other thing with embedded batteries, laptops, for instance, with a special tool, we have one kind of waste program, so.
yeah, and I'm happy to answer
Sure,
questions
on that.
or talk about that. So, for the record, Matt Chapman, Division Director of the Waste Management Prevention Division. So the Vermont Single Use Battery Program has basically helped the state to have the highest per capita battery recycling collection rate in the United States. We collect over 150 pounds of single use batteries each year. And S54 builds off that existing program. Just to amplify what Mr. Kirshner said, rechargeable batteries are critical to our renewable energy future. They're critical to creating a domestic industry for building rechargeable batteries and provide a critical source for critical minerals that are not used in those rechargeable batteries, according to the United States Department of Energy. On the downside of things, rechargeable batteries are a significant source of fires and solid waste recycling facilities in the United States and Canada. EPA has identified 254 fires over the past several years at facilities, and in Vermont, we've identified 3 fires in solid waste facilities that are likely caused by rechargeable batteries.
In Vermont.
In Vermont, yeah. So and then from a cost perspective, consumers are basically at this time on these larger recyclable batteries such as lawnmowers and e-bikes are paying up to $90 per battery to recycle them in the absence of a program like this existing.
Give me that figure.
So for the larger rechargeable batteries that exist right now, in the absence of this program, if you want to appropriately recycle that battery, it costs up to $90.
People do that.
There are a lot of people who want to both from a reuse perspective and do the right thing, yes.
So the the MRFs right now are basically eating that cost.
Well, so normally, if you're not segregating a rechargeable battery and taking it to someone who has the capacity to put it into the recycling stream, it's unlikely it's gonna end up in a MRF, though good. It's often gonna end up on the tipping floor of a solid waste transfer station, right? It's gonna end up in the trash.
Yeah.
And so then you end up with the issue with heavy equipment moving around, potentially puncturing, braiding, and starting a fire, and that's a concern. So just so you're aware, last year, the Vermont Solid Waste Management Program spent approximately $160,000 to supply rechargeable battery, fire safety equipment, and single and battery storage supplies to public and private solid waste facilities. One of the benefits of this bill is it creates a stream so that we don't have to step into the state and provide that financial assistance to districts and private facilities to have safety equipment on site to facilitate this. And I think lastly, in my testimony, as noted above, in my testimony, this builds off an existing program. So we have a primary battery recycling program right now. This builds off it, it closes some loopholes, but because of the way it's structured, it will not result in any increase in staffing or budget needs within the Agency of Natural Resources. It in fact will likely result in cost savings in other agencies like the Agency of Building and General Services or Agency of Digital Services, who currently need to properly manage rechargeable batteries. So they'll now have a mechanism by which they can manage those batteries.
Sorry, I think I missed the connection there with the Agency of Digital Services.
Sure, so your laptop or other electronic device that has a rechargeable battery that can be disconnected, those would be eligible to come into this program.
Oh,
It
okay.
would be a cost savings
To them,
to the
gotcha,
agency, yeah.
that makes sense.
And that concludes my testimony. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So, Sir McDonald,
I'm trying to get my head around the numbers.
Sure.
You said there was cost $90 to process a battery that's been turned in, it's useful. Operating life is over, and you turn it in, it costs $90 to process.
So if I have, say my e-bike reaches the end of its life and I want to properly recycle the battery in the e-bike, I would need to go to my bike store, someone who offers the service of basically taking that battery back, and they charge a fee for that right now in the absence of this program. Based on a survey that the solid waste program did, the upper limit of that cost is $90. So it's variable. It depends on who you're going to recycle with. It depends on how available the service is, but it could be up to $90.
So what does it cost to buy the replacement battery for your bicycle?
I'm trying to think when I costed out my e-bike replacement battery, I threw a couple $100. I think it could be up to $800 for a new battery.
So with the bottles, Mr. Chair, we collect the money when you buy the thing. So that when you're paying for its recycling and collection. It's $90 is say a lot more than a bottle of soda.
Right, well, again, this is, I think the benefit of this program, and again, I think as Mr. Kirchner said, is that there's a real drive to actually take these batteries and put them into a recycling stream because of the critical minerals that are in them and the ability to extract those and use them in other battery and high-end electronic applications. It's much better to get them into the recycling stream and reuse those materials. There are other costs associated with it, but than to have them going in the plant.
Where are you gonna get the $90, Mr. Chair?
I suppose if you're a conscientious citizen, you might not go ahead and pay, but so you're saying, let's just be. If, will the e-bike manufacturer or supplier to the e-bike manufacturer be a producer?
So the battery manufacturer for that, yes.
Okay. And once it's,
So like the e-bikes, those would be considered easily removable
Yes.
batteries, okay. And so under this bill, it would be the manufacturer that would ultimately be paying that $90 or however much it is. Once they are included, once they're covered.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Again, so that $90 it's much like when you go to the transfer station and pay $30 to throw your 55-gallon contractor bag into the dumpster, right? So it's the same situation where the person providing the service is charging a fee to provide that service.
Who costs the $90 up?
Me.
Yeah.
The owner of the e-bike.
You didn't pay that cost with a monkey bike, probably wasn't told that to dispose of it properly, it was going to cost them $90.
Wait, yeah, so is that true?
I think that so again, now we're talking about an N of one, right? Of one individual who bought an e-bike a year ago or 2 years ago, right? And I think I was told that I could take the battery back and that they would manage it in the place that I bought the e-bike from. Is that common or specific to the particular bike shop that I bought it from? I can't say, right? So.
Yeah.
I
don't think it's a trick question.
No, I'm just saying, I don't know that it's a representative response.
Right.
But
So we'll go through a regular program, so that will eliminate this question in the end. So Senator White, then Senator McCollum.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am a happy e-bike owner with a little battery that I take off and put back on my bike every now and again. When I purchased my e-bike, I actually got a letter from the company saying that they maintain their own program.
okay,
So how would that relate to this? Like, I think I mail it back to them, or there's some kind of program. I got a letter when I purchased the bike that explained to me their
I was
program.
gonna say,
I don't know if there's a consumer base.
it's Karen to talk about that. So Karen from Call Recycle can speak to those issues once she comes on.
Okay, so that would be, there are programs with a company now as the manufacturer does do that, or am I just in a situation where I have a very specific?
So again, I think Karen probably knows the lay of the land more about what current manufacturers are doing and how that integrates into this program once it gets stood up. I don't know.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Senator McCollum.
This is an old discussion. I know it's at least 35 years ago that was the same discussion, which is this. On the one hand, you have a philosophy which says to the manufacturer, your product, your profit, your profit. And it's simply a matter of picking up after yourself, that the manufacturers should take responsibility. The other one, though, is you buy a house, you bought the whole house, including the rats. You bought the mold, you bought the problems. Okay, and you're the owner of the battery. The manufacturer has sold it to you, and you now are responsible for it. And the case can be made for either of those. I go with your product, your problem. But the town of Randolph shipped batteries back to the battery companies literally 35 years ago, and the battery companies shipped them back. It was a sort of a showdown. I think Randolph lost, but that was before our whole elaborate recycle regime. I have no problem just requiring that the manufacturers take care. The other thing is, like in Scandinavian countries, when you buy a car, part of the price is the cost of disposing of it. And then when the time comes, you dispose of it for free. So we can pay, so.
Registration.
Yeah, if we make the battery companies take responsibility for their disposing of their product, they'll pass that along to the consumer. And the purchase price, at least the consumer will know what the deal is.
Any other questions for Mr. Captain? Mr. Kirkner, I see your hand up. Did you want to do something in the conversation?
Yeah, I'll take 30 seconds. It's important for this committee to recognize that you're focused on e-bikes there, and that's an important segment of the industry. Today in Vermont and in most states, those manufacturers, those producers are not required to be part of a battery collection program. That's changing, and that's what this bill will do. And those batteries in particular, we've all heard about the fires in New York City and so forth. Those are big batteries, and they are stringently regulated by the Department of Transportation when you go to ship them and offer them for transport to UPS, FedEx, whoever. And so there's a lot of complexity involved with getting those batteries returned. But the point here is that those bigger batteries will be are captured in this bill. And again, keeping those out of the MRFs, keeping those out of the landfills, because the potential for fires is so critical. And again, getting those manufacturers and producers on board to do that is just really important. And that's why it's one of the reasons why we strongly support the bill.
Thanks so much. With that, I'd like to go on to Karen Stewart. Good morning, Ms. Stewart. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Great. So for the record, my name is Karen Stewart, and I'm the Steward Relations Manager at Calder Recycle. Calder Recycle has been the leading nonprofit battery stewardship organization. We were founded in 1994 to ensure proper end-of-life disposal of batteries throughout the United States. Specifically in Vermont, Calder Recycle has successfully operated the approved Vermont Primary Battery Stewardship Program under Act 139 since 2016. Since the inception of the Vermont program, Calder Recycle has collected over almost 1 million pounds of primary batteries, diverting those batteries from the landfill. And as just previously mentioned, the state of Vermont collects the most pounds of primary batteries per capita in the entire United States, as it has been the only historical primary battery focused law in the US for a number of years. Additionally, we do also operate a rechargeable program nationwide, and this is to get into the technicalities, under 300 watt hours when you speak about lithium ions. That's really kind of your portable consumer handheld rechargeable batteries. We run that national program since 1996, and in the state of Vermont, it continues to be voluntary. But it is supported by over 200 plus battery and battery powered manufacturers, and they voluntarily finance our work in the state of Vermont. So while rechargeable batteries are accepted in Vermont, they are a voluntary program, meaning that certain elements of Act 139 are not covering rechargeable batteries, particularly the education outreach piece. As a result, over the past 7 years, primary battery collections have increased by almost 200%. Started at about 50,000 pounds in our first year, and we're up over 150,000 pounds now. Alternatively, where we do collect rechargeable batteries but don't put an emphasis on the collection, they have remained at about 50,000 pounds annually since 2016. Now I'll start to address some of the e-bike and other what I've called medium format batteries as well. So at Calder Recycle, we have applied the lessons learned over the last couple of decades to start expanding into what we call high energy battery technology. Specifically those powering e-bikes and outdoor power equipment. So in 2022, Calder Recycle released and started the first nationwide voluntary e-bike program. So we do have a network across the entire United States to collect e-bike only batteries at end of life. Now, an important distinction with this program, it is voluntary. There is not a single effective law in the United States. So manufacturers can choose to be part of our program or not. In our e-bike locations, our shops that have agreed to be collection points around the United States, they only accept brands that are in our program. So if a brand chooses not to be in our program, they have to determine what they're going to do within their own company of how they're going to manage and treat batteries at end of life, their e-bike batteries. Additionally, next week, we will be launching the first ever outdoor power equipment program in select locations. So again, we realize that there is a need, and so do manufacturers. They realize there is a need to take those batteries back at end of life. And so we are partnering with a select few manufacturers who want to, again, create a voluntary program ahead of a need. And we are going to be launching in numerous stores in a few states to start collecting those medium format outdoor power equipment. So your lawnmowers, your snow blowers that are powered by lithium ion batteries, we will be taking those back from those brands that support the program. So while Calder Recycle doesn't support or oppose legislation, nor do we lobby as a nonprofit, we do advocate solely based on our mission, and that's to optimize battery collections. We believe this bill will achieve several positive outcomes in the state. As people have mentioned before, it will streamline the battery collection and recycling program to include all chemistries in terms of education and outreach, and how all batteries that make their way to the market. So those batteries that are included in a product when they reach the market. Essentially, consumers, to them, a battery is a battery is a battery. They don't want to have to try to differentiate between an alkaline and a nickel metal hydride. So this vastly improves our ability to educate. It also levels the playing field to remove those free riders that we discussed earlier. And again, it also harmonizes with laws in other states, allowing Calder Recycle to really run a very streamlined and efficient program as legislation grows throughout the United States. We do believe that based on our extensive experience and expertise in collecting batteries, that we are confident that our current collection program will easily expand to include all requirements for rechargeable batteries, not only just those portable, but also the medium format. We do believe that this bill will further enhance our ability to successfully collect more batteries in Vermont, keeping them safely out of the waste stream and successfully recycling them at end of life. So thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Senator Watson.
Thank you. I heard from one of the previous witnesses about other states that have these programs, and I wrote down Washington, D.C. and California, and I'm wondering if you can help me with the rest of the list.
Sure. So I will, and I'll further expand on it. Washington, D.C. is now an effective up and running program as of November of last year. So they are the first ever all battery program in the United States. Key distinction, they only include portable batteries. They did not expand it to include those medium format e-bike outdoor power equipment. California and Washington State also passed laws. However, they must go through implementing rulemaking. And so they're in that process right now. So the laws are passed. They do include both portable and medium format. But we have not, I'm sorry, California is also only portable. Washington State is medium and portable, but they're not effective yet as we have to wait for rulemaking to complete.
I'm familiar with batteries on job sites, construction sites, loads and loads. Almost every power tool is no longer ported. Are those kinds of batteries already being handled? I'm not sure what category they fit into, if they're medium or high energy or what they are.
Right. So if they're handheld power tools, they would be in the portable grouping. If they're larger, stationary energy, they would be, above that magic number of 300 watt hours. So anything below 300 watt hours are currently being collected in the state of Vermont under our voluntary program. Once if it does become a regulated program, they would continue to be collected in our program.
Great. Thank you very much. Senator Watson?
Thank you. Just thinking about the terminology that you're using in terms of like medium, so that we've talked about like medium includes like the e-bikes. Is there a large, and is that like the power walls, and like this does not, like this has a study about those. But...
Right. So generally, in terms of terminology, you have portable, which are the smaller consumer. Generally, they're handheld, they're consumer. They top out at 300 watt hours or 11 pounds. Okay. Then you get into what has been commonly used as medium format. That goes between 300 and 2000 watt hours or 11 and 25 pounds. And those are your e-mobility, they're your outdoor power equipment, even boat motors are getting into this now. All of that falls into that category. What then is the last term is generally used as a large format battery, and that's above 2,000 watt hours, above 25 pounds. And that then becomes your EV, your HEV, and your large energy storage.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Thanks so much. Any other questions for Ms. Stewart? All right, Sarah McCormick.
I'm not sure if you want to ask, but. I've got a battery in my phone, I've got a battery in my iPad, I've got a battery in my laptop. And we rechargeable. Well, how do we recycle those?
So, and I am not sure if Vermont has an e-waste law.
Yes.
Okay, so that it would fall under your e-waste law. So so in this law, the intent is not to count a battery twice. So those batteries that are in your e-waste, so laptops, cell phones, etc., would fall under the e-waste law and be collected under that program. Loose batteries or easily removable batteries would be collected under this law.
But the battery that's built in, you recycle the appliance. Not the battery.
Well, so that's really under the e-waste provisions. I would assume that they are recycling the entirety of it, but that would be for another person.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
With that, we'll go on to Ms. Holiday. Good morning.
Good morning. Just as a, information, I was texted by Dr. Fell with Art Stewardship Institute, and he said that Susan Firefall, who is scheduled to testify, is not able to testify today, so she does that.
I'm sorry, we're trouble hearing.
Susan Firefall will not be testifying.
Okay, thank you.
But they're okay. Yeah. So good morning, my name is Jen Holiday, I'm the Director of Public Policy and Communications for the Chittenden Solid Waste District. I'm also a founding member and chair of the Vermont Product Stewardship Council, and the council is made up of all the solid waste management entities in Vermont, also known as SWMEs. And we worked on the initial legislation for primary batteries and have also worked on S240 54 that will update this law. I'm also board member of the Product Stewardship Institute, which is a national organization that specializes in EPR policy and as well as EPR battery legislation. So CSWD and the members of the Vermont Product Stewardship Council and the Product Stewardship Institute all support S254. So this bill will bring rechargeable batteries and battery sold in products into the very successful existing battery EPR program. And so by doing so, the legislation will help prevent fires at solid waste facilities, as well as in businesses, institutions, and homes. It will provide sustainable funding that comes from the manufacturers for collecting additional battery types and compensation to the municipalities to provide collection. And it will save natural resources that are critical for making more lithium-ion batteries and keep more batteries out of the landfill and from harming the environment. So I'll talk a little bit about fires. They've become one of the most common batteries have become one of the most common source of fires in the solid waste industry in the United States, Canada, causing injuries to workers and emergency responders, millions of dollars in damage, and costly service disruptions. So fires occur when the consumers improperly put their batteries in their trash and or their bin, and this is really quite common for that to occur. If the batteries are crushed, the lithium-ion batteries, if they're crushed or damaged, they'll short circuit, become superheated, and start a fire. Skip over a little bit of this has already been talked about. So according the EPA has looked at this and put out a report in 2021 that, looking at fires at solid waste infrastructure, their data shows that a 3,000% growth of battery fires at waste facilities has occurred since 2013. And material recovery facilities or recycling facilities that process recyclables bear the brunt of the impact from battery fires, with over 50% of these fires occurring at MRFs. In a more recent report from the National Waste and Recycling Association estimates that more than 5,000 fires occur annually at MRFs. This number is likely underestimated due to underreporting. CSWD knows firsthand that battery fires and MRFs are all too common and are underreported from our own experience with our MRF in Williston. Casella, with the Waste, who operates our MRF, reports that fires are a weekly occurrence. Most are managed and put out by staff at the facility and never reported. But in 2018, we had a major fire that started on the tip floor shortly after the facility had closed and the staff had left for the day, destroyed a portion of the roof inside of the building before the fire department was able to extinguish it. Had an employee working at the transfer station next door not seeing the smoke coming out of the building, the damage most certainly would have been worse and potentially resulted in a complete loss of the facility. This facility is a critical part of the solid waste infrastructure. We process over 50% of recyclables generated in the entire state of Vermont at that facility. And if it were to be lost due to a fire, those recyclables most likely would have to be shipped out of state for processing at a high cost that would be passed on to the generators. So I would like to share with you these slides.
Sometimes it takes a little while to show
Okay.
us.
There was a lag yesterday.
While we're waiting for data to go to the satellite. They're white. You give.
I'm very concerned about the markers though. Yes, I went by a, hi, Deputy Commissioner. There's been a fire at Casella, driving by going to work, and I didn't know what it was for, what the fire was, but
Here we go.
it doesn't shock me.
So these are the batteries, we see these every day at our market. They collect hundreds of them in a year. And they put them in a big waste barrel that goes to our hazardous waste depot. These are lithium ion batteries, some of them you can see that have started fires.
And those are like the bottoms of, what, like a, some kind of equipment is the ones that are.
Yeah, those are tools, the ones with the little nut coming out of them.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So this is occurring because people are putting them in their food. Here's a picture of the fire at a materials recovery facility. There's, you can see the two large doors at the end of the building. That's where our floor is. That's where material is dumped on the floor. There was a large pile of material at the end of the day, and the battery was in that pile smoldering away. I have a video of that that eventually caught fire. And here's the side. You can see daylight at the top of that wall where it was completely destroyed. This is a transfer station trailer fire at the Stone Transfer Station, operated by the Lamoille Solid Waste District. They suspected this is caused by a battery being dropped off that they caught on camera power tools that were being dropped off earlier, about an hour earlier that they found from camera. And
Did they stay in the truck?
I don't know, it doesn't.
Oh, great.
I don't, looks like the side of it was pretty damaged there.
Well,
At least the train. Okay, so, won't talk about that quite yet. So we're about to break ground on a new $30 million state-of-the-art MRF that will replace our current MRF with an opening date in the fall of 2025, and we're considering installing infrared heat detection cameras for that facility that would aid in detecting fires. A better solution would be to keep the source of these fires out of the MRF. So managing fires at the MRF is dangerous for the employee, it causes shutdowns for the facility, it renders any recyclables that have to be drenched by water unrecyclable and landfill bound. So S-254 will help reduce the risk of fires at solid waste facilities by helping keep these rechargeable batteries out of the trash with the landfill ban that's in the mill. It will require public education about the rechargeable batteries, which currently the current voluntary program does not do. And it will also reduce fires in homes, businesses, and institutions by mandating effective, free, and convenient drop-off locations for batteries and requiring the collection of damaged or defective lithium-ion batteries. So damaged, defective lithium-ion batteries are a real risk to home, to residents and businesses and institutions and to us all. Those are the ones that can to cause a fire in those settings.
Can I have a quick question? So can this come from as simple as someone dropping a battery on a cement floor?
So from what I understand, yes, you can damage a battery without knowing it by dropping it, because it's all happening inside, yes. So another reason why do we support this is because it's going to be provide fair compensation to municipalities, and I want to talk a little bit about our collection program. We're a municipality that serves all of Chittenden County. And our mission is to help our members reduce their waste they're making and burn as much as possible from the landfill. And this is why we started a battery collection program way back in 1995, much earlier than the EPR program was established in 2014. We collect batteries at our hazardous waste collection facility and 5 of our drop-off centers throughout the county. When customers drop off their batteries, our trained staff separates it by size and chemistry into 2 different containers. But before doing this, they must terminal protect each lithium-ion battery and batteries greater than 12 volts. And terminal protection requires individually bagging each battery in a plastic bag or individually taping the terminals of each battery with packing tape. This is done to prevent the terminals from one battery contacting another battery which can start a fire. Sorting and terminal protecting the batteries is done manually, 1 battery at a time. And then once that's done and the pails are full, our maintenance staff comes and gets them. They bring those to the pail to our hazardous waste collection facility. Staff there that empties out the pail. They even look at how well the material has been separated, terminal protected, make sure it's all correctly done, and then they consolidate that material and ship it out for recycling. So last year we shipped close to 20 tons of batteries, and we estimate this involved about 2,000 hours of labor. There's also costs associated with supplies and ship the batteries that are not paid for by the current program, and this includes special containers necessary to ship damaged and defective lithium-ion batteries that can cost as much as $95 per container for 1 battery. This is different than the electric batteries you were just talking about. The containers are because the damaged or defective lithium ion batteries are very susceptible to create fires. Special container, and it's $90 a pop just to ship one battery, which is not covered by the program, right?
So those containers are reusable.
That's right on the other end, but I didn't put that inside. So this is just a picture of our Heinsberg drop-off center where on the left is where the consumer drops off the batteries and other special waste for recycling. And behind that counter on the right, you can see the two battery containers up on the shelf. One's yellow, one's clear, that they separate the chemistry and the sizes into these containers. And I'm proud to say that all of our containers have been scavenged and repurposed for the formerly held kitty litter or cat food. So here's a load that comes from our maintenance, dropped off our hazardous waste depot. They have to empty those containers onto this table, and then they have, they again hand sort them once again, making sure they're properly sorted and into larger containers for shipping. These are those are the primary batteries. These are the rechargeable batteries, not great pictures, but you can see they're all mostly bagged. Individually bagged. So finally, batteries will save natural resources and keep material out of the landfill. Batteries, as you heard, contain valuable resources. According to the EPA, cobalt, lithium, and graphite are considered critical minerals by the United States Geological Survey. Critical minerals are raw materials that are economically and strategically important to the United States and have a high supply risk potential and for which there are no easy substitutes. The EPA states that every effort should be made to recycle and recover these energy intensive these materials to ensure they will be available for generations to come. Cobalt and lithium mining also uses energy intensive processes that emit greenhouse gases. Lithium and cobalt mining causes around 34 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent worldwide annually. So recovering lithium and cobalt from recycled batteries will reduce the need to mine virgin materials, thus reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And I'll just share a quote from the Department of Energy. With the demand for electric vehicles and stationary storage projected to increase the size of the lithium battery market 5 to 10-fold by the end of the decade, it is essential that the United States invest in projects that encourage consumers to recycle batteries and battery-containing devices, develop methods to reduce the cost of recycling batteries, and accelerate the establishment of new collection, reprocessing, and recycling programs in states, localities, and at retailers. The recycling of batteries and battery-containing devices is paramount for the establishment of a robust domestic critical material supply chain for electric vehicle batteries. So keeping our resources in circularity is just one environmental benefit to collecting batteries and recycling them. Batteries also contain hazardous materials, including cadmium and lead, and collecting and recycling them and keeping them out of the landfill from contaminating the environment as well is important. So S54 will mandate manufacturers to recover rechargeable batteries through the existing EPR law, which will help recover these valuable resources. And without it, the rechargeable battery collection program is voluntary and not effective. It also bans primary rechargeable batteries from landfills or disposal, which will help divert more batteries and protect the environment. So in closing, in 2014, Vermont became the first in the nation to pass an EPR law for primary single-use batteries. This law has been highly successful, as you've heard. During its first year of implementation, Vermont increased collection of batteries by 180%. At the time the primary battery law was passed, there was relatively small amounts of rechargeable batteries in consumer products. Today, thousands of products are powered by rechargeable batteries, and more are being developed every day. S254 is simply an update in response to what is occurring in the marketplace. The need to sustainably fund and collect rechargeable batteries is even greater than the original need to collect primary batteries. Because unlike primary batteries, rechargeable batteries are a safety concern that threatens our solid waste infrastructure. And they contain critical minerals that have a high supply risk and are essential for supporting clean energy industries such as renewable energy and electric vehicles. California, Washington, DC, and Washington State have recently passed EPR laws that cover a broad scope of single-use and rechargeable batteries. And S254 will align our battery law with these more recently enacted laws. So I have a couple of handouts too, a one pager, just fact sheet and a one pager fact sheet about material recovery facility provided. That's put out by the Association of Plastic Recyclers. Just let you know how that happens.
Right, thank you. And have you submitted your testimony?
I will submit this when I get back to the office.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. And, and to our other witnesses, if you have a written version of your testimony, if you could send them to the committee, that'd be great, because we've heard a lot of details this morning. It's always helpful to be able to check notes against your own testimony, so that we make sure we're accurate in what we that speech. Sarah Watson.
Thank you. So this is a question I was gonna ask before I inhaled some food. So as with the household hazardous waste EPR bill, one of the questions that I had for you was, is this likely to increase the cost of hazardous waste products? So similarly, and I'm assuming the answer is the same, but I just want to make sure it's on the record. Do we think that it is at all likely that we will see an increase in products that have these kinds of batteries in them?
So I'm even more certain of my answer with batteries, than because we don't have the experience of household hazardous waste. But with batteries, as you've been told, there is a voluntary program already out there for rechargeable batteries, right? So it's already happening. This will improve that program and bring in the free riders. But this program is being paid for already by the manufacturers today.
Okay. So you're anticipating that it will not necessarily increase the prices of.
No,
Right.
absolutely not. You could ask Mr. Kirschner as well, if he has any comments on that, but let's see how that.
And that's for the same reasons, in that like, these are probably very large markets. And it's just not practical for them to increase the prices based on like what Vermont specifically is doing.
Right, this is called cost internalization, extended producer responsibility versus a fee on the product. And that cost internalization is internalized with the company and not for batteries, just so batteries and products that are just sold in Vermont.
Okay. And just so I understand the voluntary feature of the current program, so it's mandatory for primary batteries, but voluntary for this other sort of level of batteries now.
Rechargeable and batteries that are sold in products. Are the two,
Sorry,
rechargeable batteries.
so the rechargeable batteries, it is currently mandatory or it's currently optional?
That's not.
Okay, so the rechargeable batteries is currently optional. Primary, non-rechargeable, mandatory. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
What, I'm just curious about the, consumer convenience thing. So there are a lot of stores that sell, stick power tools and loads of power tools, almost all with batteries and stuff. Are you imagining that, hardware stores, et cetera, will accept these batteries back on behalf of their customers, and would they have an obligation to do so, or is it just a consumer convenience?
So retailers are not required to collect batteries. It's completely voluntary, a service if they want to provide that to customers, they can. If they choose to do that, they can't distinguish, they can't not collect all the batteries that are part of the program. They have to collect all batteries, not just the ones they sell. And we do currently have retailers throughout the state that are collecting batteries. This will help with that as well, because there will be more demand, hopefully, in education, and the retailers, hopefully will continue to collect. I don't know if Karen has anything else to say about that. She has probably a better pulse on the retailers and servicing them helps with the second program.
And maybe this is probably a question for you as a solid waste district, and maybe Mr. Chapman as well. As we modify our solid waste programs, we educate consumers about how laws have changed, help them participate, all that stuff. You've done it before, but can you say a little bit about your role versus what you're anticipating stores will take it on versus what the agency would take it on?
Well, we will continue to act as a robust collection point for all of that. And because we have a hazardous waste facility, we can easily manage these damaged, defective lithium ion batteries that are quite dangerous. And we can be an outlet for, if those show up at stores and the stores don't handle those, they can come to us. We will also provide education and outreach in our best interest to keep the batteries out of the landfill and out of our MRF. So we will definitely supplement the outreach and education that the battery manufacturers provide with our own agency.
Right, again, I guess Matt Chapman, Agency of Natural Resources, just to be clear as well. As a part of their product stewardship plan, manufacturers are required to come up with an education and outreach component that educates the public on the need to recycle these batteries in the locations where they're at, right, to recycle them. So we certainly review and ensure that that plan is adequate and appropriate. We also regularly take a look at various materials and see if we're not getting the capture rates we want to meet, whether the state provides additional outreach and education on that issue.
Thank you. So, any other questions for Ms. Holliday or Mr. Chapman?
I just have one comment, and I would like George, if he's still on, to just talk about this. It's a change in the bill. It's a very minor change that he's requested on page 6. And it's with adding the word "or" instead of "and." It's on line 6 at the end of that paragraph. Sorry, page 6, double I. The end of that sentence, weighing not more than 25 pounds, or. So if you have questions for answer that, but that's, I think it's bringing.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, maybe we've been going almost an hour and a half straight, so let's take a break till 10 past and then resume testimony.